Hello, welcome to 30 Minutes. I'm Rick Anthony. My memory isn't what it used to be. I had to be reminded that years ago I had heard the term RLFing. I'd forgotten about that. Originally called structural integration by its founder, Dr. Ida RLFing, a biochemist from New York City, who studied alternative methods of bodywork and healing beginning in the 1920s. She died in 1979 at the age of 82. And until recently, I had never met a RLFing practitioner until I met Robert Toporek.
Yep.
Met him at a meeting. I asked him what he does. That's the kind of thing you do. He said he was a RLFing practitioner. I said, what's that? And he couldn't answer my question because he had to leave the meeting. At least that's the way I remember it. Robert Toporek is a member of the Roth Institute of Structural Integration, the only school in the world that trains RLFers and Roth movement practitioners. He trained at the Esalen Institute in California with Dr. Ida Roth, and is the author of the book of baby and child massage. It's a fascinating subject. Welcome to 30 Minutes, Robert.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here. Yours is a very interesting story, not just because of what you do, but how you got to where you are today. But in layman's language, in 25 words or less, what is RLFing? R-O-L-F-I-N-G?
Well, let me give you a quick view of my view of RLFing, which is a little bit different than the Roth Institutes at the moment.
Okay.
And that is because I've extensively been studying the issue of posture and structure and working with babies and children.
Wait a minute. I've got to sit up straight.
I've been working with babies and children. And
old people.
And old people. I work from birth. My mantra is from birth to death. It's never too late or too early to interrupt the inevitable.
And straighten up.
Right. So what happens is that when we're in the womb, flexors, muscles that do this, overpower muscles that do that. The theory is that when we're born, we come out perfectly straight, but we don't. We've got some more flexors overpowering extensors. And if you look at that process over time, that's what you call old age. And Dr. Roth figured out that you could alter that pattern of tension in a person's body, and I've discovered that you can do it at any age. If you begin in the very beginning, I've only done this with maybe a dozen babies within the first week, you take that pattern out of their bodies before it ever starts to reinforce itself.
Are you talking principally about the spine?
No, it's the whole body. Your whole body is connective tissue. And that connective tissue, flexors, it's a heredity pattern of humanity.
Right.
Oh, I know what it was. I Rothed a guy one time, his name was Raymond Dart, and he was the anthropologist that discovered the link between human beings and apes. And we had extensive conversations about verticality and evolution of humanity. Here's the problem with the evolutionary chart. When human being shows up, the chart ends. There's no ... And Dr. Roth said that RLFing is a conscious attempt at evolving one's evolution. And so what happens is that once a person's Roth, you begin to free them from both that pattern that they inherited, as well as all the physical and emotional traumas that people pick up along the way in life.
So it is principally about posture?
Principally about structure.
Structure.
And you could say it in terms of posture, which is that the appearance is that people just stand up straighter. But it's more than standing up straighter. It's being freer, it's being more confident, it's being more powerful, it's being more self-expressed.
As a young boy, my father drilled my two brothers and I. Stand up straight, put your shoulders back and your head up.
It makes no difference.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, if you practice it, well, you know, there are people, the Alexander technique has people practice that. Yoga people practice that. If you practice it enough, it will become more natural, but it won't give you that place that Dr. Roth work gets people, where people's bodies begin to integrate rather than disintegrate. So if you look at people's bodies over time, we begin to disintegrate, and her technique is one that has people integrate. I have people around me who, I run a nonprofit where we distribute computers to people that can't afford to buy new ones in my office, and both are in the same place. And I offer free sessions to all my volunteers. and I've got people 60, 70, 80 years old that I've been Rolfing for 5 or 10 years, and you would never guess that they're 70, 80 years old.
How long does a session take? And it is massage,
Yeah,
right?
well, it's a form of massage. It's the best way to say it because it's too complicated to
All right,
explain
that's
it
fine.
any other way. It's a highly specialized form of working on, well, see, massage works on just the surface muscles, and Rolfing works on connective tissue, actually stretching and separating connective tissue. And so in the initial series, there's a series of 10 sessions. Each session works on a different part of your body. They're usually once a week. And at the end of those 10 sessions, what happens in the first 9 sessions, more happens after session 10 than happens in the first 9 sessions. Because at session number 10, all of a sudden, a person's body magically is evolving. And then they take that out in their lives and they start doing things they've been afraid of doing before. They start saying things they've been afraid to say. They start being
Really?
ways. Yeah, really. And
So it does change behavior?
it does change dramatically.
Is that right?
Yeah.
To a more positive,
To
more...
much more positive, much more confident, much more open.
And will take a person who has been introspective and make that person more extroverted?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I just finished a whole family of 6 people. The 87-year-old father
Yes.
was down in the dumps. He could barely stand up anymore. By session 10, he was able to get out of his car, use his walker to walk down the sidewalk, up the steps, down the hall, into a session, and his whole demeanor after session 10
Yes.
was different. His daughter was 57, and she had been in an abusive relationship for 33 years. One of the most horrendously abusive relationships I could ever imagine anybody being in. She shared the whole thing with me in her sessions. And at session number 10, she said, butterfly. I know what a butterfly feels like when they come out of a cocoon. I'm out. I'm free. Yeah.
Does the massage actually retrain the tissue?
It retrains your tissue. It also retrains your brain. So if your brain tells you, I learned this from kids with cerebral palsy, if your body, if you want to take your arm this far,
Yes.
but all of a sudden you can't take it, you can only take it that far. What happens is that pattern gets built into your brain.
Yes.
And then you stop trying.
I
And then
see.
all of a sudden, if you can open up that connective tissue
Right.
so that you increase a person's range of motion, then that has an impact on their brain.
Does Rolfing work best with some other form of either medication or another technique like yoga or any?
I mean, all those things are good, but it isn't dependent on any of those things. And it really amazes me that people call me, they've never had a massage before,
Yeah.
never been to a chiropractor, and they use Rolfing as their first access to growing their human potential.
Yeah. So you are a certified practitioner,
I'm an advanced certified practitioner.
advanced certified, at the master's level? Can we use
Well, I'm
that?
at a master. I've given myself a PhD in Rolfing
There you go.
because they don't exist.
Okay. So,
But
somebody had to do
I've been doing it for 40 years.
Uh-huh.
I've Rolfed many of Dr. Roth's children, some of her grandchildren,
Huh.
and I studied with her for 4 years. And I've Rolfed now more babies, children, and families than all the Rolfers in the world put together.
And speaking of all the Rolfers put together in the world, how many are there that is certified Rolfers?
There are about 2,000
Total in the world?
total in the world.
Even as a result of the movement she started back in the 20s?
Well, she didn't start, she actually started training people probably in the late 60s, early 70s, where she started training lay people. So, you know, it takes something. You just don't jump out of bed one night and say,
Yeah,
I want to be a
yeah.
Rolfer. It's a lot. It took me a long time to learn.
And you've been doing it for 40 years? did
40
you say?
years, yeah, since 1975.
Okay.
Over
But-
4,500 people, men, women, and children.
But yours is one of those stories. You came out of the Vietnam era. You served in Vietnam.
I did.
Thank you for that. Came out of that experience not quite knowing what you wanted to do with the rest of your life. Kind of accidentally stumbled into an opportunity
Yep.
that became a cause and part of your life experience and your purpose for being here. That is to help other people.
Yes.
You met the doctor,
Yep.
Dr. Roth, and that was the beginning?
That was, I met Dr. Roth in Big Sur and had 2 meetings with her, sort of semi-meetings with her. One is I was babysitting a guy who had flipped out, so to speak. And at the time, people around Esalen believed that you should not put people in hospitals. So this woman was treating her husband on her own, and she wanted to go in town and she needed a babysitter, and so she asked me if I would babysit. And as I was going there, Dr. Roth was walking out. And I can remember today, she had this like aura about her and a smugness. I said, now that's interesting. She's Rothing this guy. And then one day I was sitting on my stoop, and Esalen is right on the edge of the Pacific Ocean, and they have this beautiful garden, and she was walking along the garden, and all of the most powerful men at Esalen were right behind her. And I'm like watching this, and I'm saying, this lady's got something. So I told her secretary I wanted to be a Rother. She told me that I was interrupting her lunch, and that I kept insisting, no, you don't understand who I am. I'm Robert Toporek. I want to be a Rother. And she said, no, you don't understand. In this lifetime, nor in any other, should you ever consider being a Rother. And I said, So I put my head between my legs and I scampered out of there. And a couple of years later, some other people I met that had been Rothed, and we were doing a lot of massage with each other. They said, you've got great hands. You should be a Rother. And by that time, there was a Roth Institute. And as it turns out, Rosemary had been her secretary. And then the last 4 years of her life, I took over a lot of those duties. So all of her classes, the last year of her life, were all done in my house in Philadelphia. And I spent extraordinary amount of time with her.
So of the 2,000 or so around the world, how many of them were actually trained under?
Less than 100.
Fewer than 100.
And
Okay,
less than
you're an elite
50 of them very extensively.
Member of an elite group.
Yep.
You mentioned, let's take a look at some photos you brought, because that helps to tell the story.
Yep.
They're about...
so there's a little baby named Colton. And Colton, I Rothed his mother. I Rothed his father. His father is a Major League Baseball player. He's up in AAA, and then he goes down. He's played for the Mets and a couple of other teams.
How old is the child there?
That child was less than 3 months old.
And
I started him when he was...
Was there a problem with the child?
No. As I said, people that have been Rothed
Yes.
and understand my theory that from the moment you're born,
Yes.
this is the pattern,
Okay.
and that you can take that pattern out of their body in the beginning. So I have a few people on my side moving in that direction.
But it is a condition that we're born with that should be corrected.
Well, it
can be corrected.
Can be correct. It can be. It can be. You can do something about it at any time.
Yes.
With any baby.
Oh, okay.
And
what was the outcome of that?
Where's that baby?
Session.
Colton. There he is. He's 3 months old. He stands up perfectly straight, and he's now 3.5 years old.
Yes.
I also coach people on how to have brilliant babies. So he's just enormously brilliant. He's enormously
brilliant babies.
He's enormously self-expressed. He's just a wonderful kid. I'm gonna see him again.
You don't
on Wednesday.
mean that you can increase the IQ?
You can.
You can.
You can.
By a significant number?
By significant numbers. I'm on a mission to do that.
Okay. Really?
I really am.
All right. Let's see some more of the.
And then there was Mark Howe, and that's Mark and Gordie Howe. Mark was a hockey player. He's the head scout for the Detroit Red Wings now. His father is a legend in the world of hockey, and Mark claims that I saved his career by 3 or 4 years, and he said it publicly many times. I'm one of the few people in the world that have a lifetime endorsement from him. And then a few years ago, he said, how about, I kept saying, hey, let's go Roth your dad. And his dad had some problems, and then he finally brought me his dad, and that's Gordie before and after. And Gordie is also a legend in the world of hockey, and to get a lifetime endorsement from him is just a real honor.
So other than the, I was going to say obvious or apparent, his physical
his flexibility
change.
improved, his sense of his well-being improved, and all those were really important to him.
Is there a correlation between the work you do and Alzheimer's and dementia?
Well,
Can-
I would never.
can you-
I would never claim
you
that RLFing
forestall-
can. I would not claim that.
Yeah,
No,
you
no.
have no clinical support
I would not
for
say
that.
no.
Okay.
I would not even
All
go
right.
there.
Let's go to the babies, because when I met you, I asked specifically whether or not you had any experience with children with autism, and if so, whether or not RLFing had been beneficial in any way. And you said yes.
Yes. So there's a woman who, well, there's what I call it the pillars of transformation. So it's not just RLFing by itself.
All right.
That's going to make the difference, although RLFing by itself can make an extraordinary difference. One of the greatest stories I have to tell is a woman there's a place in Chestnut Hill called the Institute for the Achievement of Human Potential. They have a one-week course called What to Do About Your Brain and Your Children. They also have a one-week course called How to Give Your Baby Encyclopedic Knowledge. I met a woman there because I was taking their courses. She had a profoundly Down syndrome child. And I said, if you get Roth and you do something called the Landmark Forum, which is another program I know about, you'll produce exponential results with your daughter. Really? Well, they happen to be wealthy enough that they could afford to do all that. So the whole family got Roth, and the whole family did the Landmark Forum. Then they did their advanced RLFing sessions, and then they left town. But before she left town, she left with a new possibility. The possibility was that her daughter was going to graduate Harvard.
Oh my God.
Now I said, I don't know about that, but I'm not going to, I wouldn't be I wouldn't rain on your parade. So they went away, and I lost touch with them for about 15 years. And about 2 or 3 years ago, I called them up and I said, I was kind of like a little edgy about, well, how did it turn out? Oh, we're so glad you called us. Well, Lauren didn't graduate Harvard, but she is graduating college. And if you're sitting down and taking your heart medicine, that's a good thing, because she's graduating with a degree in theater and movement. And Lauren now is living in Ohio. She has a boyfriend. She's on her own. She drives. She's one of the most articulate people you would ever want to meet. She's on Facebook all the time. She has incredible posts. So that's one. There's another one. There's a guy who leads the Landmark Forum, and they had adopted a baby in Phoenix, and the baby started having seizures. And they started going to every neurologist they could think of. And the last person they went to said, if nothing else works, we can consider taking out part of her frontal lobe. So somebody said, well, they called me and they said, do you think that's too radical? I said, and could I make a difference? I said, well, here's the deal. The parents have to get Roth, and you have to give them permission to come back here. And they did. And that baby's now 5 years old. She's autistic, but she's one of the smartest, healthiest, happiest autistic children you ever want to meet. And just recently, I started RLFing a woman who has a 12-year-old autistic daughter. And as soon as I can raise the money to do more, I have access to about 1,000 kids with autism, and we could do a major study, but it would cost some money, and I don't have the time or the money to do that.
We should talk about that. You've written a book, maybe several, but this is the one I'm looking at. The new book of Baby and Child Massage by Robert Toporek. And the claims on the cover are reduce stress, strengthen emotional bonds, boost mental stimulation, and promote overall well-being in 9 easy steps.
Should be 10, but
It should be 10?
yeah, but they put 9.
9 easy steps. And is this a protocol, a regimen that you developed? The
It
9
is,
steps?
yep. Well, what I did is I followed my RLFing philosophy about RLFing babies and children, and I put it into a massage framework so that anybody could massage your babies. Tell you 2 stories about this real quick.
Let me repeat what you just said. Anybody can?
Anybody can read that book,
Yes, and learn
massage
to...
their babies. They won't Roth their babies.
Okay.
They'll massage their babies, but reading that book will dramatically enhance their relationship with their children.
Okay.
And I'll give you 2 quick stories. My son had his first session the day he was born. The very day he was born, I gave him his first session. And I gave him, the last time I Rothed him was at his wedding in July. And it's, you might think it's odd for a father to be massaging their kid or Rothing their kid, and it is. But we were together, we had about a half an hour. I said, would you like me to work on you? He said, sure. So I worked on him for about a half an hour, took all the tension out of his body, and he was like happy and I was happy. Then I've also taken this idea of massage to a place called the Badlands of North Philadelphia, 9th and Indiana. And at one time, I had a whole project going where we would get massage therapists to go there every week. And we was during the summertime, set up our tables on the sidewalk.
Right.
And it got so popular the last time I was there many years ago. We had 10 Roth massage therapists there with tables lined up on the sidewalk and people standing in line for a massage. There was one little girl, she went to each table and got a massage. And you asked me if I could see ours. Well, I'm telling you, she was walking down the street and there was white light behind her. And what would happen is that whenever we would go into that neighborhood, when we got there, it was really noisy.
Yes.
And by the time we left, there was a
Quiet.
calm and peace that was, you could actually feel it.
Was that a structured project?
No,
Were you
it was
collecting
just a
data
volunteer project, and
Okay.
we didn't have it very well
The
structured.
purpose of which was what?
See if we could use RLFing and massage to transform a neighborhood. And we did. That neighborhood, some of the kids have made it. One
Yes.
of the kids from that neighborhood is now graduating Millersville University this year. He's probably the first kid from that neighborhood that I know of that's graduating a 4-year college.
So you obviously have a lot of anecdotal evidence that RLFing works or can have a beneficial effect. But have you been involved in any structured
Studies? No.
where clinical data has been collected, has been codified, and has been published?
No, but I was smart enough to videotape every single person I've ever RLFed. And the videotapes, there's enough scientific evidence on those videotapes that if somebody's looking at this and they want to do a study on that, they can feel free to call me. I just don't have the time or money to put into doing that kind of study.
This
There
treatment-
have been some studies by other people doing RLFing. There's a woman working on a study with kids with cerebral palsy, but it's not done yet. And it's not as published as, you know.
Is your fee and the fees of others who are in your business covered? Are they reimbursable?
They're
by
not
insurance?
covered by insurance.
So
no.
it's private
Yeah,
pay.
private pay. And it costs about $1,500 for 10 sessions.
Over how long a period of time?
About 3 months.
Okay. And after the 3 months,
I
assuming
re-
that
I
there is a
recommend people-
demonstrable change
There's a demonstrable change. I recommend that people wait 9 months to a year
to have another
to,
session.
if they want, and there are 4 more sessions. The
Yes.
Dr. Roth structured, you know, we do this, and then after that, from time to time, if you want another session, you'll know when it's time to do that.
Is RLFing used, accepted in medical practice in any of the health systems or
I don't think so.
nothing like that?
I mean, there are some RLFers that have some ends in
Right.
some places, but it's not generally that well accepted.
It is not.
Tell you what I'd like to
In
do.
behavioral health or, or integrated
no,
medicine.
either behavioral health or any health. And part of the problem is that there's never been done with a group of people where you could show the social significance. So I'll give you, for example,
But you told me about the neighborhood.
in the,
The
well,
social
I know, but
significance.
we went back to that neighborhood and we did it in a structured way,
Right.
and we did it over a period of time, then we could,
Yes.
you know,
Okay.
determine that it has social significance
But you need
for
an
kids in
underwriter-
poverty.
you need an underwriter
We need an
to
underwriter
fund
to
that.
do that story.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have a friend that runs a daycare center, African American daycare center, and she would just love for me to come in there and work with her parents and her babies, and I would love to do that. But it's a 5 to 10 year project.
Yeah.
Because you want to find out when the kids are in the
Sure,
third grade,
sure.
what difference did it make? And I've also been studying how poverty affects the brain. And it doesn't just affect the brain, it also affects kids' bodies.
Right.
And if you could bring this into the world of poverty, and in my project with distributing computers, all the people that come to pick up a computer are people who have been beat up by life. And it's written all over their bodies.
That's the connection. Yeah.
It's written all over their bodies.
What's Team Children?
Team Children is an effort to transform the achievement gap. And the achievement gap in this country is the gap between what we're producing as children and what the rest of the world is doing. And it goes from kids in poverty to kids who are doing well. We're still not stacking up in the world the way we could.
And what's your involvement with that program?
I think that this RLFing, my computer program, the software I have, the technologies that I promote, all make a difference for babies and children.
If folks would like a copy of this book, the new book of Baby and Child Massage,
They can get that on Amazon.
they can.
Yeah.
At what cost?
I don't know. If you buy a used copy, you can probably get it for $1.
Okay.
New copy, I'm not sure. It used to be $9 or $10.
Is this your first and only publication?
That's my first publication, yep.
Are there others in the works?
I'm planning on writing a book about the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And the first African American to win the Medal of Honor in the Vietnam War was in my squad. Blew himself up to save 4 other people. He's dead. I'm the only one that can really tell that story.
That's the pin you wear, right?
That's the pin. And it took me 20 years before. And that's one of the ways RLFing helped me. And I believe that it could. I haven't been able to get into the VA yet. But I can tell you one thing, that I left the Vietnam War uptight and angry, pretending to be a nice guy. But underneath it, there was a little
Angry, an angry man.
And I was angry that we came back and nobody said, "Hey, welcome back."
Yeah.
They still don't. Every once in a while, I get people like you that say thanks for your service. So I know that it could help veterans. I know it could help with post-traumatic stress syndrome.
Yes.
But how do we get that paid for is another story.
Yeah.
It helped me as a veteran. I mean, it's helped me let go of.
Well, how long does it take to train, to certify?
Well, it probably takes about a year and a half. You have to go through the first 10 sessions. Then you have to study anatomy and physiology. You have to have some background in psychology, working with people. And then you have to go through the Roth Institute's course.
So a
Takes about
physical
year.
therapist, someone who's trained in
Somebody
physical
could
therapy
probably
should be able to,
Do that in about a year and a half.
it would still take that long.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they understand anatomy and everything. It would still take that long
Yep.
because the technique?
Because of the technique, yeah.
Well, okay.
And see, sometimes when you're a physical therapist or a chiropractor, you think you already know everything.
Sure, yeah.
And it's harder to teach somebody who thinks they already know everything than somebody that doesn't.
Robert, again, you're touching on so many different aspects of this. What will be your legacy?
My legacy is I'm going to do a project with enough babies and children that I can bring other people who are already trained as RLFers here to Philadelphia and recreate myself so that they can take back to their communities projects like mine.
To what extent is there technology associated with this? Sensors of some kind, for example, so you get some biofeedback? Nothing like that?
No.
Might that be part of a research
I mean, it could
study?
be, but see, here's a real testament.
Because we'll go to
Does-
Microsoft
does
and we'll get a project.
Does
on.
somebody come back from session 1 to session 2?
Yeah.
To have people commit themselves to a program and finish all 10 sessions
Yes.
is a major undertaking.
I'm sure.
And I'm 98% effective at having people that start finish.
Yes.
And then the question is, do they come back? Do they bring their families? Do they
Yeah.
bring their children? And I'm pretty good at getting that to happen.
It's a fascinating subject. I'm really delighted
Well,
that
thanks
we
for
bumped
having
into
me.
one another at that meeting. And I hope this will help to get the word out. Thank you very much for being here. Anyone
you.
who's interested in learning more will go to
mypostureperfect.com or give me a call at 484-744-1868.
Okay, good enough. Thank
Great.
you again for being here.
Thank
and
you.
again, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Until next time, this is 30 Minutes. I am Rick Anthony. Take very good care of yourself and check out RLFing, ROLFING. Check it out on the internet and check Robert out at his institute.